Hi, folks. Jason Pritchard here with you Monday, March the 3rd, coming at you with your weather update. I'm unveiling a brand new show today called Cold Rain's Weather Blitz, where more than likely I unsuccessfully try to wrap up the weather and outline what's coming up over the next 7 days. So we're going to see how this goes. This is not going to replace previous show called Cold Rain's Weather World. That's still going to take place. I'm going to have another episode tomorrow, actually, with a brand new fake sponsor and a couple of other fun segments, including trivia. So don't miss out on that. We'll go a little bit deeper than we're going to go today on the severe weather threat and the blizzard conditions that will likely be unfolding as we get into tomorrow. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to start today with our satellite picture, and you can see this spin in the atmosphere here. This is a system that has worked on into the Great Basin, and it's going to spark cyclogenesis, which is just a fancy word for low pressure development in the lee of the Rockies. We've got some high clouds over here in Colorado working into Nebraska and Kansas, and then some clouds associated with a little system that worked through Texas yesterday, bringing some precipitation into Mississippi and Alabama, some high clouds streaming across the north into the Great Lakes, and just some good old-fashioned cold weather up here in the Northeast. It's warming up as the temperatures, the sun comes up. You can see it dissipate on the satellite image. Radar, nothing scary here on the radar. And then you can see a little bit of light precipitation, light snow out here in the Rockies. Little light rain, looks like mixed precipitation showing up on radar just in entering into Illinois. And then that system, as I said, a little upper level system that has brought some showers closing in on Jackson, Alabama now, came from Texas yesterday, but they had a little bit of severe weather there. So nothing going on too much on the radar image right now, but that is going to change in a big way. That's going to look a lot different as we get into the next couple of days. Temperatures, chilly out west. Warm air surging up into the plains is going to set the stage for some severe weather in Oklahoma and Texas today. Dallas up to Tulsa, you guys are under the gun for severe weather this afternoon. That's just going to spread east as the week goes on. Chilly up into the north. It got down to 20, maybe 25 or so here where I'm at in Morganton last night, and then really cold up in the Northeast, as you can see, up in the single digits as we get up into northern New England. So chilly, that's going to last for about another few hours, and then we're going to start to see this system take place and bring all kinds of warm air advection ahead of it. So things are going to warm up in the east. Now, temperatures this afternoon, for highs, you're looking at generally 40s, 50s, 30s up in the 20, obviously below freezing in the taller, higher elevations. But out west, you've got still this little troughing area. As the storm system winds up, it's going to pull in cold air behind it. But today we're looking at 30s, 40s, 50s out west, 60s and 70s, even 80s down here in Texas today for highs. So that's going to, as I said earlier, to set the stage for some thunderstorm development here into Texas, into Oklahoma, 50s up into the Great Plains. And then as we get back into the eastern portion of the country, highs in the 40s and 50s to 30s, 20s, teens as you get up into the Northeast. So chilly up there. But as I said, changes are on the way. Now, taking a look at our hazards map, look here. So lots and lots and lots of colors showing up. We've got winter storm warnings. We've got red flag warnings, high wind warnings. We're going to see winds over the next couple of days gusting 50 to 60, even 65 miles per hour in spots. Blizzard warnings where you've got these deep reds here. And so you're going to have snowfall rates potentially at an inch an hour with thunder snow, winds in the 60s. Travel is going to be very difficult. Where you get snow band, you could even get higher rates than that. So looking anywhere from 2 to 5 inches anywhere in this area, but the winds are going to be the big story. Power outages, hazardous travel. Be very, very careful from Nebraska into Iowa, Minnesota, up into Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan. Winter storm watches are up here. I expect we'll probably see blizzard warnings extend in this direction as winds are going to be very, very strong. High wind watches up for most of Kansas, and then wind advisories across much of the South. This is going to be covered in wind advisories because there's going to be a lot of wind with this storm. It's going to be really strong and have a lot of wind energy to work with. Regarding the severe threat, the Storm Prediction Center has outlined a severe threat across Oklahoma into Texas today, up into Kansas. For mostly, it's going to consolidate into, you're going to see storms kind of consolidate into a line. You've got a lot of wind shear with height, but it's pretty unidirectional, so we're not seeing a lot of turning. So this thunderstorm or the tornado threat is going to be more limited today. Just because of that, but you're still going to see some strong shear here, and if we can see good instability, they may even upgrade this later on today. So watch this area for wind damage today, and as we go on into tomorrow, the bullseye sort of translates east and southeast over into Arkansas. Kind of this triangulation of Arkansas and Louisiana and Mississippi, where you're going to have the best overlap of shear and instability. There's not going to be a lot of instability as we go through the week with this system. It's one of these high shear, low cape or instability environments, but sometimes the shear and the direction as the wind changes with height, you get that directional shear. You've got this strong low level jet and a really strong 500 millibar jet. We'll take a look at those in a minute, but those are going to really contribute to strong shear profiles, which could overcome the lack of instability. So we'll see. There's a chance this could get upgraded, or maybe the lack of instability limits the severe threat. But anywhere in this enhanced area, be on the lookout for potential tornado threat. If we look at our threat here, 10% chance within this yellow area of a tornado occurring within 25 miles of a point, and where you see this hatched area, this black hatched area, there's a greater potential for strong tornadoes there. So wind damage looks to be fairly significant in this area potentially. So watch out for a line of thunderstorms as it comes through. You can see supercellular development ahead of that line. If you do, those will take much more efficient advantage of the atmosphere and using that shear, taking advantage of the shear profiles that exist, and could potentially create some of those strong tornadoes. So watch out in this area. All of this translates to the East Coast as we get on into the end of the week, the end of the period, which is what we're talking about is Wednesday. Wednesday afternoon, you'll see a line of storms developing or translating east from the Delmarva down here to the eastern Carolinas. This is a kind of a prefrontal line of storms. It's going to occur out ahead of the cold front itself. And so there are some question marks about how much moisture return will be available when this line moves through. Will there be enough fuel for these storms? We'll see. The shear profiles, the wind profiles in the atmosphere are very favorable for a severe weather event. So if we can get instability and actually maintain a solid line of storms through here, we'll see. The timing of the day isn't the most favorable. It's coming through maybe late morning. And so we'll just have to see how that plays out. We've got a couple of days to watch it, but that is your really the kind of the extent of what we're looking at. Severe threat from Oklahoma to Texas, all the way to the eastern seaboard this week. Very strong dynamic system. So what's driving this is in the upper levels. You've got this big upper level system that has worked on into the West Coast, approaching the Four Corners region, and that is just going to strengthen and spark low level, low pressure development. So surface low is going to develop. We call that cyclogenesis, and we're just moving this on forward Tuesday into Wednesday. You can see this big low level jet up here, about 18,000 feet. And it's about 130 knots on this image here. That's a really strong jet up there, and that helps to create wind shear that's useful for thunderstorm development. And look, this trough is kind of taking on this negative tilt here. You can see it kind of tilt back from the south east to the northwest, and that's indicative of a very dynamic and strong system. We've been talking about that for a couple of days. So this moves on out of our hair by Wednesday into Thursday. Wednesday evening, the storms are moving off the coast. Snow's winding down. And at the surface, though, we've got dew points kind of surging. I'm going to roll this back here. So you can see these dew points surging in. We need warm, moist air to fuel severe weather. And so you can see into Texas and Oklahoma today, you've got that finger of higher dew points in the 60s kind of poking in there. That's going to translate east as we move through time. This dry line comes out of West Texas as that storm system winds up. A cold front pushes through. That warm, moist air out of the Gulf surges in across the south. You get a little bit of lull in that, a little minimum here into eastern Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee. And so there's some question marks about just how much low-level fuel is going to be available, but you can see it starts to pick back up again as you get toward the eastern Carolinas into Wednesday afternoon, where the line should be propagating through by then. So everything moves off by Thursday, and you're left with dry conditions, windy conditions behind that front. It's going to be windy through much of the south over the next couple of days, so pay attention to that. Our jet stream at 850 millibars, about 5,000 feet, you can see that develop too. And that's going to be responsible for a lot of these windy conditions that we see. So as we move this on out to about 30 hours, look at this, the storm system's really getting underway. Big jet cranking here, 50-knot jet starting to crank up across Nebraska down into Kansas, prompting those blizzard warnings. So we're going to have a whole area here from New Mexico to Texas into Kansas and up into Nebraska, where you're going to see wind gusts potentially exceeding 60 miles per hour. So all of these high wind warnings that you see and watches that you see, this is why that's happening. And then on the eastern side of that storm down here to the southeast, you've got an even stronger reflection of that jet. And that's going to translate across as that cold front comes through and help to create a wind threat as we go on into Wednesday, and it exits the coast Wednesday evening. But there's a lot of dynamics at play here. And if we look at just our general precipitation pattern with this thing, so 1 to as much as 2 inches is possible over these yellow kind of areas here into the orange areas where we're going to see more precipitation. This is going to be a fast moving system, so we're not expecting a lot of flooding, but generally a half an inch with all of these storms up to an inch in spots. So fast moving storm. What about in the cold side? So we talked a little bit about the severe threat. You're going to have all kinds of hazards, by the way, down here. Cold front's going to sweep through. It's going to be a primary wind threat. But if discrete cells kind of move out ahead of that, you can get they can really take advantage of the environment and all of the low-level turning and everything that happens, to create spin in the atmosphere that's going to come together potentially for some tornadoes, potentially a strong tornado or two. So the National Weather Service, the Storm Prediction Center, is watching all of that. And we'll watch as the event unfolds and just see how much of that shear can overcome the lack of general instability. High shear, low instability, kind of an environment that we're working in. And so sometimes it's a little bit tricky, but you need to pay attention in the next couple of days because we've got a lot of threats on the table. On the cold side, that system cranks up. It moves on into Iowa up toward the Great Lakes. On the backside, that's where your heavy snow is. Look at this. It's just pounding Wisconsin up into the UP of Michigan. 5 to as much as 6, 8 inches of snow possible in the northern areas here with high winds. Probably going to see some blizzard watches or warnings come up over the next day or so up in that area. So about how much snow are we talking about? Well, let's do this first. Let's take a look at the wind threat and let's move this over. Let's look at the snow threat first. So snow, 4 to 5 inches, as I said, there's your snowfall totals. 6 inches is where the purple starts here. So you could see 3 to 6 inches in these areas, up to as much as maybe 8 to 10 inches in spots if we get any of those snow bands and thunder snow. So that's all possible. All of those hazards are possible. Even outside of thunderstorms, you have a wind threat. So look at this. As we start to get into this thing and it starts to wind up, look, tomorrow afternoon, we're looking at winds gusting. These reds here are 60 plus miles per hour. Sometimes these wind maps are overdone, but in this case, we've got a lot of energy. I would really watch out for power outages, batten down the hatches through the the lower plains here, kind of the central plains, and then watch that sort of translate to the east. It wanes out overnight, and you get back into the heating of the day, if you can call. It really is not going to be a lot of heating under this low pressure system, but the jets moving across, and you're going to get winds gusting into the 40s, into the 50s. So blowing snow, blowing rain and thunderstorms. And then that all translates over to the east as we get on into Thursday after the front leaves. Strong winds behind that into the Piedmont areas here up into the Great Lakes. They're probably going to issue wind advisories for the wind threat. So lots of variables at play with this storm. It's going to be a very dynamic system, very strong for this time of year, but that's what March does, produces these strong storms from time to time, and you get all kinds of weather hazards. I'll be back to detail these, all of these threats more specifically tomorrow. That's sort of a general idea, but watch out across the South, watch out across the plains, watch out across the Great Lakes. Just watch out in general. There's going to be a lot of hazards here. Now, looking down the road a little bit, European ensembles. We have a roller coaster that we're on temperature-wise. Right now, we're cool in the east, warm in the west. Look at this. We go out a little bit in time, and we're out here in Wednesday to Thursday, warm in the east. A little cool shot comes in behind that system. As it moves out, another warm punch to the south, cool across the north, warm in the west. And that comes on into the east. Again, warm east, cool west, warm plains, cool west. And you generally see this sort of pattern where you've got these systems coming on. Sure, they're just sort of translating west to east, maybe with a sort of a northeast component to them, but you're going to get warm out ahead, cool behind, warm out ahead, cool behind. We're in a very active pattern. We're going to see a lot of precipitation here, as you can see that kind of on the surface map. So looking at this, let's go back to our tropical tidbits display here and see this. So you got that big storm system moving through. That gets out of the picture. A new storm system comes in, drops some rain across the south. A new system comes in as we get into March the 12th. Look, it translates across the country. Another one comes in, looks similar to the one that we're going through now, and they just keep on coming. Boom, 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 one after the other. You get a storm, a day of rest, a storm, a day of rest. That's what we're in, it looks like, over the next couple of days. Total precipitation, the GFS ensembles agree with this, so we'll stick with the European ensembles here, but 1 to 2 inches of rain across much much of the east, Cascades, and then into the coastal range, Sierra Nevadas. You guys are going to pick up, multiple inches of rain and snow, and California up into the Pacific Northwest under the gun, just with heavy rain across the middle of the country. You can see that footprint travel across and spawn storms here, and you get a larger area of precipitation with cold fronts and such. So that's how that shakes out. Now, our model map of the day is the GFS, and it is in its bag like there's fries at the bottom. Look at this. Big snows for Virginia, the mountains of North Carolina, back into Kentucky, West Virginia, over into the Delmarva. That translates east. This is, when is this? This is overnight, looking at March the 8th. Into March the 9th, so Saturday, Sunday. Silly model, needs to be recalled, I think. Total snowfall 6 to 8 inches, maybe 9 inches over here toward Norfolk, but 9, 10 inches. But this is silly because none of the other models agree with this, and it's probably not going to happen, not just because other models don't agree with it, but because the GFS routinely does this, and it's likely that it'll be a little bit too warm for snow. But we'll watch it and see anyway. GFS is fun sometimes to just look at it when it shows things like this, and it often does. So that is your cold rains weather blitz for today. It's been fast, it's been fun. We'll come back with a cold rains weather world tomorrow. I'm active on Twitter, so I'll probably be tweeting this afternoon if I see any changes or anything you need to worry about or know about. It's at Real Cold Rain. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share with friends and family. Leave a comment, prayer request. Happy to pray over anything that's going on in your life. So it's been a fast morning. Hopefully you guys have a great day, and we'll see you back tomorrow with a cold rains weather world. Take care. Have a great day.